Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and our continued coverage of Massive Darkness 2. Today we are finally getting into the expansion classes, and I know that a lot of you have been waiting for this one in particular, so I decided we'd go ahead and start with the Tinkerer. Now the Tinkerer is easily one of the more complicated, if not the most complicated hero, but has a lot to offer if you're willing to dive into it. So when you are setting up for the Tinkerer, they really only need this large, which you'll notice this is the size of a roaming monster card because there's so much information on here. It needs that big of a rules reference card. Okay, so you're going to set this off to the side. You're also going to have some small skill card size cards for your Construx. You'll notice that 1 and 2 are on the same card, and then level 3s are on one side, and this is just a picture on the back. So you want to kind of have those handy somewhere nearby. You also want to have your bomb tokens. There is no upgrade for these or replacement for these, so you definitely want to have these nearby. Large bombs and small bombs. Stick those up here. And then there are these 4 tokens that come with the expansion pack. So if you purchase the Bard and Tinkerer, Bards, Tinkerers, and Metal Angel, looks like this here, these are what you're going to get inside. So if you just have a retail copy of the game and then pick this up in retail, you're going to want to have these out as well. But if you happen to have the stretch goal box, you're going to dig in here, and for example, this is the Guard Construct. This is the smaller one. There's 2 kind of suits of armor here. One's obviously bigger. This one is for you once you get your Exo Armor. This little guy right here is the Construct, so this guy would replace that token. Then you have your Sentry Construct. That one's pretty straightforward. You would replace it with this one. And then your Scout Construct here is this Wheel of Death thing here. All right. So those are your constructs. Again, you would have the miniatures if you have the stretch goal box, the Darkbringer pack, and then this large one here with the sword. The one with the sword is for you, that you can replace your miniature on the board with this if you start gaining Exo Armor. Okay. So that's setup. I mean, there's no special setup. It's basically just making sure you have everything that the Tinkerer may make use of. All right, so let's go through this card because each area of, or the first 2 areas of this card, it's really just 2 areas, cover the first 2 skill trees that I'm going to talk about. So let's talk about bombs here. I'm going to hold this up. Bombs are very similar to traps that the rogue could place out. You can place a bomb at magical item range, so basically in your space or an adjacent space, and they only affect enemies, which is nice, so you don't really have to worry about planting a bomb and then it hurting a friendly ally. So keep that in mind. The bombs automatically go off at the beginning of the next enemy phase, so you can place a bomb, move around it. You can place a bomb and have 3 other heroes go after you. The bombs do not trigger until the enemy phase, and they trigger at the beginning of the enemy phase, so you don't have to think about, ooh, how far are these enemies going to travel. Essentially, you are wanting to drop them into the location of a mob. So if you are adjacent to a mob, drop it in their space. Boom, you're good to go. All right, so let's look at the bombs skill tree here. You've got your level 1 skill, which allows you to either discard 1 item, any item of any nature, can be a starting item, but you discard an item or 3 mana, and you get to place 1 small bomb at, they use that symbol which says magical item, but that basically just means in your space or an adjacent orthogonal space, not diagonal. So then you would get out this small little bomb token here, you'd place it in your adjacent space, and then you can see here that it really is, there's more detail in the rule book, but essentially here, for a small bomb, you're rolling a single yellow die, and all enemies in that zone get a wound for each sword you see on the yellow die. Then as we upgrade at level 3, if we go the bomb skill tree route, we can start placing a large bomb or a small bomb for the same price. All right, the large bomb works the same way, except you're rolling now a orange die instead of a yellow die. And then the last one here, bombs level 3 at level 5. Bombs 3 at level 5 is placing 2 bombs. They can either be small or large, and they can be placed in different zones, still in the same range. All right, so this is very similar to just putting a flame token on an enemy, except if you happen to come across a zone that has more than one mob in it, this would hit both of them. But you're basically just rolling that die at the beginning of the enemy phase. They're taking those hits immediately before they activate. All right. Then let's look at the gizmos here. This is seems like a lot because there's a lot of options here. But what you're essentially having to do is to use your imagination to turn treasure tokens into what they're calling gizmos. Now, you first have to start off with having the gizmo skill tree. So you can't just use this, you can't use gizmos without and be in the bomb skill tree. But you could have level 1s of both if you wanted to. So you'll notice that this one here says at the start of your turn, draw 1 token from the treasure bag and keep it as a gizmo. So, and then the other ones are basically just pretty much the same. You may take 1 free trade action. At the start of your turn, draw 2 tokens, choose 1 to keep it as a gizmo. And here is basically the same thing, but if you want to keep both, you can spend mana to do so. So that's the gizmo skill tree. If you have the gizmo skill tree, you're going to be drawing from the treasure bag at the beginning of your turn. And, you're going to pull out, and look at that, I actually pulled out 1 of each type out of the treasure bag. Depending on what you pull, you can turn it into anything. So there is no card that you're going to need. There is no other token that you replace this with. You just keep this in front of you. You don't trade it in for an item. You keep the actual treasure token in front of you, and then you can spend it on your turn for various things. So let's look at what the kind of common treasure could turn into. It could turn into smoke bombs, which during combat allows you to reroll 2 dice. It could turn into the cobbled wings, gives you more trade. It could turn into the carrier drone, which allows you to trade, but also you can trade with a hero in any zone. So you could zoom something off to someone. All right. Or say you get lucky and you pull a rare treasure here. You could get the Holy Hand Grenade or the Replicating Gadget or the Orb of Darkness. What's really nice about this is that you don't have to decide. You don't have to pull this out and say, all right, this is going to be a smoke bombs, and then remember when to use it. This can be all 3. Since you're the Tinkerer, you can turn this token into any one of the 3 at any given moment in time. All right. Same thing with this. Then you have your epic treasures here. This one is a lucky coin, gives you an additional action, freezing device, Lightbringer potion, and then you'll see down here there's a little bit of a gap with it. You'll notice these 3 symbols here. These are for the legendary treasures, and you'll also notice you're looking at die colors that are not in the core box. These are only applicable in the Heavenfall campaign expansion. When you start going up above level 5, you'll start seeing these types of treasure tokens make it into the bag, and you'll be using the red and green dice. But that's gizmos essentially, and just to clarify, you're only when it tells you to draw a treasure token and keep it as a gizmo can you do this. If you walk into a room and there's a treasure token, or when you enter a room and then you spawn the room and put down the treasure tokens based on the number of heroes, you cannot walk over to that, pick it up, and turn it into a gizmo. It has to be when you have the gizmo tree skill, and it tells you when to turn them into a gizmo. Now, I'm trying to, because what I have over here is with these expansion packs, they give you the cards necessary that if you then have the Heavenfall expansion, you can get up to level 10 with the skill card. So I was looking to see if there was at any point you could turn a standard item into a gizmo, but I didn't see one. I thought I had seen that somewhere. But anyways, that's the gizmo skill tree, and that's essentially your reference card. The gizmos is what takes up a good chunk of the reference cards. But remember, it's just this treasure token here that you're turning into a gizmo. You have to kind of use your imagination. All right. The last level 1 skill tree that you can start off with is the Blacksmith. And this is going to give you just a simple thing here at the beginning, but we'll see that it can turn into something really good down the road. And this would be if you were wanting to be a support character, right? Bombs is definitely more of the hit 'em hard, you're going for damage type of tinker. Gizmos is the adaptive, almost rogue-like. You know, you want to be able to do a lot of different things. You want to be able to move have more move points on this turn, but then be able to re-roll dice on this turn. There's a lot of variety in the gizmos. The Blacksmith is definitely a support character. And if you want to go to the Blacksmith route, here you can see you start off by just being able to draw a mob item. Generally, mob items are a little bit better than their matching, you know, like a level 1 to 2 mob item. Generally, I've found better than a common item, and also it's guaranteed to be a weapon of some sort. So here you can trade in 3 mana for a mob item. Once you get up to level 2, this is where the support really comes in. You count as a forge. So as long as someone is sharing a space with you, or you yourself have 3 item cards that you want to spend an action on to forge into something greater, you can do it yourself, or if someone's in your zone, you can do it for them. That way you don't have to find that one anvil in the dungeon. You don't have to wait at that anvil. You can continue moving, and as long as they are like, ooh, I've got 3 rare treasures here, let me turn them into 1 epic treasure, they just come to you and you turn them into this essentially just is the same thing, but the mob item is a little bit cheaper once you get up to level 3. I think this is really nice because there's often times where I will go to a forge and I will trade in maybe take 1 or 2 actions to trade up what I've got, but then the rest of the game I'm probably not going to backtrack to the forge, and so I end up with a whole lot of junk that I can't really do much with. The tinkerer can use that junk to turn them into bombs. It can use them forge other people's and your stuff into other things. Really useful class, and you can see these are very different skill trees that you're getting into. All right, well, those are the 3 kind of starting at level 1, 3, and 5 skill trees. Let's look at the level 2 and 4 skill trees. So the first one is the Construx skill tree, and that basically allows you to be putting out these 3 things here that we looked at the beginning of the video. So level 1 Construx here, you're discarding 2 items. So it's not gizmos, it's not having to have treasure tokens, it's not using mana, it's items. So you want to, again, stockpile those items, and those items that for a lot of people are wasteful, you can make use of. So you discard 2 items, you place 1 level 1 construct in your zone, and then notice that this is not an action. All right, discard 2 items is not an action. All right, this is the payment, but it is not an action to create a construct. It is, however, an action to destroy a construct and replace it with a small bomb. You can only have 1 of each type of construct, so you can only, even if you have the token and the miniature, you can only have like 1 guard, 1 sentry, and 1 scout. But you place either the token or the miniature on the board, and then you have your reference cards right here that tells you how they activate. So here, for example, is the guard construct. He has 2 standard movement, and just like a hero, 2 MP. He has 1 blue die for defense, and he melee defense. If it's melee against him, he gets automatic shield, and he's rolling 1 yellow die as a melee combat. If you flip him over here to level 2, you'll see he's basically rolling additional defense. These work very similar, almost identically to the shaman's spirit animals, or elemental spirits, or God, I can't even remember what those are called now. Way too much massive darkness in my brain right now. But essentially every time your tinker activates, you can do either a move action with them or an attack action or some other action. If you want to do another action or both at the same time, then you as the tinker have to spend one of your actions. So if you have all three of these out, you could activate each one, say attack, move, and attack for free all on your turn. In order to get to the other side of these and flip these over, you have to get to your Construx level 2 skill, and this is placing one construct level 2 in your zone. Still the same thing, destroy it and place a small bomb in its zone. So these, similar to the shaman, these can be recreated more than once. If you blow them up or if they get destroyed by the enemy, you can create them again, but you can only ever have one out at a time. To get to your level 3 constructs, you're actually going to have to play the campaign, because the level 3 constructs skill is at level 6. This is where you get to build a level 3 construct. So Tinker is definitely one of those that I will be excited to take into the campaign to get these amazing constructs. So let's just look at them real quick now, because they're, you know, little mini characters in and of themselves. Your guard is essentially like another little hero. He can move, he can fight, he can defend. His stats get better as he goes up. All right. Your scout cannot attack. His only purpose is to either move, carry items to other people, so similar to your drone Gizmo, carrier drone Gizmo, but this is one of the few constructs or elementals or anything like that that can actually interact. It can open doors, it can trade, it can carry items, and it has an additional movement point. So this one has 3 movement points to it. And that's at the level 1 skill. As it flips over here, you can see it's got 4 movement points, things like that. And then last but not least is your Sentry Construct. This one cannot move. It can only attack. It actually attacks better from range, but it can still attack up close. So no matter where the enemy is, as long as it has line of sight, it can attack. Not very much health, but it's again meant to just sit there. And as you flip it over, the health gets better. It can now re-roll, things like that, but that one stays put. So think of this one as a little mini hero. This one as a, as it says, it's a sentry post. And this one is movement only. So those are the 3 constructs that you can create as a tinker. And we're not even done yet, folks, with what the tinkerer can do. Like I said, this is a very deep class here. The last one, which I'm sure a lot of you have been salivating over, is the Exo Armor. So Exo Armor 1, discard 3 items, gain 1 of the parts of the Exo Armor. You may equip, unequip it as an item. It cannot be traded. So you cannot give Exo Armor to some other character class. Also, this again is not an action. Let me just confirm that these are not actions, because it's the wording is in bold. I don't think so. I still don't think it's an action, because discard is not an action that you have to spend an action on. Either way, at this point, and then once you get up to level 2, you can start creating the level 2 armor. So you can create both top and bottom of your armor at level 1 with just the level 1 skill. So let's take a look at that armor. This is one of the coolest things of the game. Now, when you do so, I've got all these cards here just to keep up with them, but if you build the bottom section of your armor, any items that you have in here go over to your inventory. You can use them at the forge, you can trade them to other people, whatever it may be, but you don't cover them up. So let's look at the level 1 Exo Armor here. You can see that it's giving you, a weapon, in this instance, it gives you a ranged weapon and a melee weapon. Here it's giving you a helm, a suit, extra MP, and a trinket, essentially. So when you create this item, you would take this and you would just set it over there, and then if you create the bottom, you would set it over there. At this point, you have a full set of exosuit armor, and these images act as your item cards. So you get to gain all the benefits from here. You can see, though, it's really nice that they kept, whoops, they kept this here so you can kind of see what those numbers are. But you can read their name, you can read their special ability, you can still see their picture, which is nice, but then everything else, all you really care about is on these cards. Then, once you get up to level 2, you can discard 2 items and 1 part of an Exo Armor, which means you would just flip it over, and now you're looking at your level 2 Exo Armor, which essentially is the same thing, but again, everything is upgraded. Now you have to do these one at a time, so you may end up with level 1 bottom or level 1 tops and level 2 bottoms, but you're still in the exosuit. Last but not least, there is the level 3 Exo Armor, but similar to the level 3 Constructs. The only way you're ever going to see this is level 6 Exo Armor in the Heavenfall campaign. So, and you can see here the battle suit. Look at all that defense. That's 6 dice in defense, and green is essentially just better than blue. Here you're rolling 5 dice ranged attack or 6 dice melee. I mean, this thing is a freaking tank if you think about it at the end of the day. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is, I realize, a very long explanation, but I warned you in advance. This is a complicated class. It was going to take a lot to cover. Let's finally take a look at the 3 Tinkers that come with the game. Now, these first 2 come in the Tinker pack. So if you get the Bards and Tinkers expansion pack, you're going to get these first 2. Our third one here, Daisy, comes in the Darkbringer pack. So Kaylee here is very basic. You can discard an item to re-roll 2 dice during combat, and she can draw a mob item from her current level if she rolls her hits on her shadow. You know, very, very straightforward Tinker here. Jebediah here, he gets lots of movement, essentially. He's in his wheelchair, so I guess you can just push him and he just continues to roll. I don't know. But he gets additional movement every single time, so he's a very good at movement, and his shadow ability allows him to bring back a discarded item that he's used or discarded. So previously I have not been really creating a discard pile. I just usually tuck them at the bottom of the deck once I use an item, but with this guy you want to make sure you actually have a discard pile. And last but not least, Daisy here. Daisy, oh, this is what I remember here. This is a different way to get a gizmo. When you kill a leader or roaming monster, draw 2 treasure tokens from the bag, keep 1 as a gizmo, return the other token to the bag. So Daisy allows you to get gizmos without being in the gizmo tree. It's like she innately has the gizmo tree. And then shadow ability, ignore all of the black dice and fully heal you and your constructs, which is super, super powerful. Again, you got to hit on the shadow die, so it's a 1 in 6 chance when you're in shadow, but really nice. Those are the 3 Tinkers right now that come in the game. If you happen to have previous content from Massive Darkness 1 and you have the conversion pack, there are 2, I believe, 2 heroes that you can play 2 different classes with, and they can be used as Tinkers. It's either Tinkers or the base box heroes. I can't remember who they are. I just remember there being 2. So technically you could have up to 5 Tinkers. You could all run a Tinker in a 5-person game. Anyways, that is going to do it. Actually, you can't, because there's only 1 set of skill cards. You can only have 1 type of hero class per game. So sorry about that. Can't run 5 Tinkers all at once. Anyways, that's going to do it for our Tinker overview. In our next video, we're going to cover the Bards, who also come in this same expansion pack. So if you're enjoying this video, please consider giving a thumbs up. And if you are really enjoying this series and want to make sure you see more of it, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.